Hello, I'm Dango Rose. Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast, where everybody's listening. The Mountaineer brings you the latest news of the Peak to Peak region in print, online, through our podcast, social media, and special publications. Now, listen in to the latest news of the area with our local journalists.
Welcome to the Mountaineer Podcast. I'm Tyler Hickman. We're going to mix things up and bypass today's headlines to bring you a very special episode. Apologies to all you news junkies out there, but we have some pretty big news of our own, so you'll still get your fix. I've kept quiet about this for quite some time now, as we've been piecing together things to make all of this happen. And today, I'm finally able to share the big news. In February, the Mountaineer is launching Caribou Current, a brand new, free, monthly arts and culture publication. In each issue, you'll see stories about music, art, entertainment, food, you name it, covering the peak to peak and down the hill into Boulder County and Golden. It's a big area, but if anyone can do it, it's the team that we've put together. I'll be joining a cast of former Boulder Weekly staffers who all lost their jobs this past summer when the paper collapsed. It's hard to quantify the loss of a paper to the local community, and it's kind of hard to stress how important it was without sounding, honestly, a little bit conceited. But I believe we were doing great work and delivering fresh news, music, and culture stories on a weekly basis that our readers couldn't find anywhere else. When Boulder Weekly went away, so did that coverage. But we want to bring it back with an even broader scope and give this wacky, weird, and wild Front Range community the arts reporting that it deserves. Not to display any biases here, but our guest today is the only person I can think of that fits the job description of Boulder arts reporting necromancer. Jezy Gray, Boulder Weekly's former arts and culture editor, and the now managing editor behind Caribou Current. Jezy and I talked a bit about what Caribou Current will look and feel like, what we want this monthly to bring to our readers, and waxed on about why arts journalism is important, especially in this community. The next 20 minutes or so will give you a window into what to expect in the first issue of Caribou Current, or at least warn you of what's to come. Here we are. I wanted to thank you for joining us today, Jezy. Really excited to get started with this new publication adventure that we're going on called Caribou Current. But before we start talking about what that is, tell me a little bit about who you are. Who is Jezy J. Gray?
Thanks for having me on the pod, Tyler. It's always good to chat with you. I am a culture journalist, an arts reporter, whatever you want to call it. And I also have extensive editing experience running newsrooms from the Tulsa Voice alternative newspaper to the nonprofit newsroom like the Boulder Reporting Lab. Most recently, I was the arts and culture editor at Boulder Weekly with a good chunk of this team here that will be helping us launch Caribou Current next year. And we're all just really stoked about it.
What exactly is Caribou Current? Let us, tell us what this new publication is.
Caribou Current is going to be a free monthly print newspaper covering all things arts and culture on Colorado's Front Range. From the mountain communities of the Peak to Peak region, who are already being served by the Mountaineer, down to the foothills of Boulder County, where we really see a gap in arts and culture coverage, and we want to serve all these communities together.
Awesome. Yeah, really exciting. But I did also want to take a step back for folks who might not know where we came from. Give us a little bit of background on where Caribou Current is coming from. How did the idea for a monthly arts and entertainment publication with the Mountaineer come about? Where did all of that start?
So I think to start, you need to begin with the implosion of Boulder Weekly, the alternative newspaper that served Boulder County for over 30 years. When that newsroom went under this summer, that created a gap in specifically in arts and culture coverage for these foothill communities. We were approached by Barbara Hart at the Mountaineer and asked if we thought it would be a good idea to launch a new publication under their umbrella that served this community along with the Peak to Peak region in a monthly arts publication. And we frankly thought it was a pretty great idea.
Yeah, I can attest to that. It was really cool to have the idea or be given the idea that I was going to get to keep doing what we were doing at Boulder Weekly and keep doing it with my old coworkers and have the support of a really, really great team and another like legacy independent newspaper in Boulder County.
Absolutely. And there are, that's becoming a rarer and rarer story, which is for a legacy media company, an independent print publication like the Mountaineer, to still be doing such great work, to still be keeping the lights on all these years later. And so being able to operate under that umbrella with a publication like the Mountaineer is just really a huge honor, and we couldn't be more excited.
When I was at Boulder Weekly, one of the things that I was really hoping to do while we were there was to kind of expand our coverage up into the mountain regions, up towards like Ned and Gold Hill. And I think that's something that we all kind of wanted to do. So it makes me really excited to know that we are going to be actually doing that now. We'll have our hand down the hill, like you said, but we'll be covering a lot of stuff in the Peak to Peak.
Absolutely. It's a really unique opportunity, I think, bringing these communities together under one roof in one newspaper, I think is a huge service to all these communities. We are siblings in a way, and these communities are connected. And so I think they need arts and culture coverage that reflects that.
But yeah, I think siblings is a really good way to describe it. There's like a connection between Ned and Boulder that I think Caribou Current will really help solidify and fortify and like kind of help blossom a little bit. Would be, my personal goal would be to build a stronger connection between the two.
That's my goal too, and I think we're uniquely set up to do that just based on the makeup of our staff. The full-time staff at Caribou Current, we know the foothills like the back of our hands. We've been covering this community for years, including the mountain communities when we could. But we now, coming under the umbrella with the Mountaineer, we also have their staff who know the Peak to Peak like the back of their hands. And so bringing these two forces together, I think is only going to mean good things for readers.
So as we're really getting excited about this, I think it's important to talk about where we are in the process. Kind of pull the curtain back for us a little bit. What's Caribou Current in the process of doing right now?
Sure, yeah. We are currently laying the groundwork for our first issue in February 2026, which is going to be here before we know it. As we were just saying, this is coming up quick. And so what we are doing is fine-tuning a lot of the major elements, such as our publication name, for one thing, we haven't had for too long, working with our design team on logos and design and layout. What's this thing going to look and feel like? These are the kind of conceptual questions we're kind of untangling together right now. And then on the editorial side, we're starting to get a vision for what our first issue might look like. We're brainstorming recurring columns, feature stories, just kind of generally putting together a roadmap for the types of reporting we want to do in this new publication, and just sort of laying the groundwork to hit the ground running on that.
Yeah. And February 2026, it's right around the corner, but it's going to be the first month that we publish. What's our like publishing schedule look like? When can readers expect to have a copy of Caribou Current in their hand on a monthly basis?
The idea is to print early in the month so that readers have a guide for the month ahead that's going to be relevant for the next 3-4 weeks. As far as where specifically readers can find print editions, I couldn't confidently tell you that just yet. I think the distribution team is still fine-tuning parts of that. But the idea, as I said, is to find people where they are already hanging out, and that's coffee shops, bars, various public places that people might need something good to read.
From your perspective, as someone who has really been at the forefront, at the kind of spearheading the startup of the publication, is there anything that has really surprised you about what it takes to start a publication, or something that you think that might surprise someone on the outside?
That's such a good question. I think most folks don't realize how granular these decisions are. And, it's what are the dimensions of the paper going to be? What's the paper stock? And those sorts of nitty gritty nuts and bolts. It's just all the way down. There are decisions to be made that are so far afield from the typical just sort of editorial questions that come up in a newsroom in a place that's already humming along. Building that from scratch has been quite a process, and we're still, frankly, in the middle of it. But each day we answer more of those questions, and we get closer to what's going to be Caribou Current.
But I think when you kind of put all those decisions together and all of those like little tiny details, when you pay that much attention to them, it might seem like individual things people wouldn't pick up on. But as a whole, it's when you put it all together, there's so much information, there's so much detail that the attention to it makes for a really, really great product. Like I had never thought about the type of paper that we were going to be printing on. I never thought about, like you said, like where our newsroom was going to be. And it feels like every step of the way we make a decision, and that decision leads to more options or more decisions that need to be made. But it gets me really excited to get to a point where we can see all of these decisions like add up into a print paper that you can hold in your hand, filled with great content that covers the whole area that we want to cover. So
you're totally right. And all we can do is make those decisions with thoughtfulness and care, which, as you say, was sort of the hallmark of how this team operated together at Boulder Weekly. And, sometimes you get it wrong, and sometimes you arrive at a decision that's, not the right one. But if you approach it with care, and I think you could accuse us of many things, but not caring isn't one of them.
For sure. I wanted to step back a little bit. You mentioned earlier the void that the Boulder Weekly absence kind of created in the music and arts coverage scene. And as far as I know, there isn't really any like dedicated, consistent music, arts, culture publication that is in our area that, whether that's peak to peak or down the hill, there's nothing that exists like that right now. I know Westward covers, a fair amount in Boulder, and they creep up into the mountains too, but there's nothing that is consistently in this area that people can rely on. From your perspective, as someone who's worked, for a lot of music and arts publications and really had your hands in a few different areas, what's the importance, the significance of music and arts editorial coverage, and especially the importance of it for this specific part of Colorado?
For one, I think arts and culture coverage connects people with the things that they already care about, by and large, especially in a community like the Front Range, where music is important to us, art is important to us. Giving people reliable, compelling, human-level coverage of the things they care about is a really great way to tell stories, and it's a really great way to build a publication that is fun to read and hard to put down. And me personally, as an editor, that's my number one goal. I want you to pick this thing up, and I don't want you to put it down until you're done reading it.
Yeah, and that's like I don't know. That's again speaks of, the quality that we want to put out there in kind of terms of that. Like what can readers expect when they pick up a copy of Caribou Current? What are the things that you want to have in there that you want readers to see that will make sure that they don't put that paper down?
I think a big part of that is giving readers different places to land in the publication. This was sort of the way that I thought about building the art section at Boulder Weekly previously, and now I sort of want to do it on a larger scale, which is to say, if you're picking this thing up and you just want to know what concerts are coming to town this weekend, at a glance, you have that resource. But if you are sitting and waiting on your coffee and your date hasn't arrived yet, or whatever the case may be, and you want to sink into feature writing that is moving and compelling and funny and surprising, then you can do that too. And I think giving readers those different options and just being aware that people pick up the publication for different reasons is a big part of how we want to kind of hook people in. And so then hopefully, if you just want to read about what concerts are coming to town this weekend, once you're done with that, you're flipping over to the next page and maybe you're checking out a feature story on one of those musicians who are coming to town.
Yeah, I think having a place for everyone, no matter what you're looking for, is such a good goal, and it's something that I always appreciated. There was nothing, arts and culture wise that we didn't cover at Boulder Weekly, and I want to carry that through Caribou Current. I want people to be able to know that when they pick it up, there's going to be something that they can read about food or live music or like visual art or film, and they'll be able to get a really good sense of the area and everything that it has to offer, from an arts standpoint, just by flipping through and finding something that really resonates with them.
Yeah, that's the goal. I am a little obsessive about this, honestly, as you can probably attest to, in terms of building an editorial slate for a given collection of stories. I kind of want there to be something for everybody. It's, if you're into death metal or the ballet or whatever it might be, I sort of want there to be a little something for everyone and a little something that surprises everyone.
I think what was it? A column that we used to run in Boulder Weekly. I think it was Found Sounds, and something that we're hoping, I think, to bring to Caribou Current. But one thing that for me made me realize, and I'm not a huge death metal guy, but made me really appreciate the kind of breadth of coverage that we had in Found Sounds. Each month we would do a roundup of the best-selling new records at Paradise Found in Boulder, and it was usually followed by the editor's pick or a staff pick. And one month, I think you had the new Blood Incantation album on there, and I read that and I was like, where am I? But it was so cool because you could see that, and then you could see the new, Sabrina Carpenter album on there, or the latest jam band Grateful Dead live release, remastered, whatever was selling. Seeing that column, you got a real sense of not only the breadth of tastes in Boulder, but the areas that we are capable of covering.
Yeah. And that's partly by design. We want people to kind of be as you say, where am I? What is this? But I'm going to say this carefully, but I'm pretty sure that Boulder Weekly was the only print publication in the world to interview both Chapel Roan and Brooks and Dunn in the same year.
That's crazy.
So we want to bring that kind of variety and that kind of depth to what we're doing at Caribou Current.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, when you put it in perspective, I think we really have the tools that we can take from the weekly and make something really special with Caribou Current because of because of that. So
I mean, we're all this staff. We are all voracious consumers of culture, and we all kind of like all sorts of stuff. And we're enthusiastic about all sorts of different things, and I think we bring that passion to the work that we do.
yeah, for sure. We're all super jazzed about it. So I wanted to move into our speed round. Came up with some fun questions. I don't know, maybe just to give some folks an idea, a little bit more about like who you are and the type of coverage that we are excited to do, and like where your mind is at. Okay, so question one: what is the last song you listened to? And knowing you, if it's kind of obscure, try to describe the sound a little bit to us if it's something that people would have no idea of what it is.
Okay, that's a good question. The last song I listened to, I need to find the title of it, so forgive me while I look this up. But it's an artist from here on the Front Range who records under the name M. Sage, which stands for Matthew Sage. And I was just listening to his new record, which is called Tender/Waiting, Wading. And it's a collection of ambient music that uses a lot of like field recordings from his home in Berthoud, I believe. And I was just listening to a song called Fieldhouse Deer, parentheses mice. So I imagine that some of those animal sounds are incorporated into that song, but it's all woven together in such a like dreamy way that you sort of don't notice those individual elements. It just kind of adds up to this cool like wash of sound.
Yeah, yeah, definitely super, very like Boulder coded, Northern Colorado coded. Hopefully, we'll be able to do some coverage on MSage. I know we're pretty excited about it. What's one consistent column that we've been dreaming up that you're extra excited about?
Well, one column I'm particularly excited about is called Under the Influence, where we talk to local musicians about who influenced their most recent record. And so we'll have them break down 3 different albums or artists, something that kind of left their fingerprints on the artist's music. Very stoked about that.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Great way to peel back the layers of some of these artists who probably a lot of people don't know much about. So I know we talked about M. Sage, but do you have another local artist that is on your radar right now that you think is like must listen to if you haven't heard of this person?
One band that comes immediately to mind is Prairie Wolf. These guys are scattered across the Front Range from Nederland to Longmont, and they make this sort of cosmic Americana that almost sort of crosses the line between elevator music and country music, but with like kind of a jazz influence through it all. Very, very fun stuff, and I imagine we'll be doing some coverage of them for sure.
Yeah, it sounds up my alley. I kind of like that stuff. All right. Transitioning to food a little bit, because I know that we want to do some food coverage, and that's something that we did a lot of at Boulder Weekly. Do you have a favorite restaurant in the Peak to Peak?
You know what? I am obsessed with the breakfast sandwich at Ned General, which is like on a brioche bun that's just really buttery and delicious. It's been a few weeks since I've had one, but I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah, shout out Ned General. We did an episode on them a couple weeks ago. Their cookies are to die for. If you've had the Gold Hill cookie, they have the same ones at Ned General. Amazing.
It's perhaps the best cookie I've ever had in my life.
I think it might be. It's pretty incredible. Definitely ill-advised to eat them for breakfast, but they do serve them all day, and I have done that myself. So, okay. So in the spirit of Spotify Wrapped, which just dropped along with, Apple Music and Tidal for all you freaks out there. Wrapped kind of like reveals our music tastes to the world, if you so please to plaster it over social media like a lot of people do. Is there anything on your Wrapped that either surprised you or maybe you're a little bit embarrassed by?
That's a really good question. It's a little bit funny discussing my Spotify Wrapped each year because I am a music journalist And my job frequently requires me to talk to touring artists who are coming to town. And so typically my most listened to albums and artists are bands that I've interviewed earlier in the year. And I just, during my preparation process, I'm listening to these records over and over and over again. So I think one thing that connected to that is Spotify put my listening age as 20 years old. I'm a 38-year-old man, firmly elder millennial. But because I'm always listening to what's new, it codes my listening habits as being much younger than I am. And so, like, in a way, that's kind of embarrassing to see, like, yeah, your listening age is 20 years old. But on the other hand, that kind of, I think, should be expected of music journalists. You should sort of be trying to stay current.
For sure. It's the sign of someone who's probably doing their job, at the bare minimum, doing the research for it. Last question: in 2025, what was the best live show that you went to?
Man, it's gotta be Turnstile under the bridge. Under the I-70 bridge in Denver. You were there and can attest to this, that it was just a really incredible lineup of everything from like traditional hardcore, the Australian band Speed opened, to the like glitchy hyper pop hip hop fusion of Jane Remover, who opened the show as well, with I think something like they were expecting 5,000 people under the bridge, and I would say they got it. But I've just never been at a show with that many people who were so hyped to be there, and it was just so infectious. It was a great time.
Yeah, it was a life-altering show. And I think what was super cool about it too was like it really was transgenerational. Like you had Jane Remover, who I think definitely bumped your listening age down to 20. Like it's super like you said, like glitchy electro, like hip hop pop. If you've ever heard of 100 Gex, it's like in that vein. But then you had like Mannequin Pussy, which is like, an iconic punk band, and Turnstile, which is having a huge moment right now. So it was, I mean, we were in a mosh pit with 19-year-olds and like 40-year-olds, like every, and I guess that's not super transgenerational, but in the vein of like, punk music, I think that's about as diverse of an age group as you can get.
Totally. Yeah, and I think you see that in the makeup of the band as well. I mean, I can't remember the singer of Turnstile's name, but he's basically my age. I think he's a couple of years younger than me. And then I think their guitarist is like crazy young. I think she's like very early 20s. So yeah, they really are that bridge between like millennial and Gen Z. And it was such a good show.
For sure. Awesome. Well, I mean, that wraps up our speed round. Closing out here, what are you most excited about with Caribou Current coming first week of February?
Well, I'm excited to get back in touch with readers again. I think that sounds kind of cheesy, but something I really loved about making a weekly paper was just being in conversation with the community week after week. And as we ramp up for things like the Sundance Film Festival to come to the area, now is a really exciting time to be starting that conversation again.
For sure. By the publishing of this episode will be, I think, roughly 6 or 7 weeks out. So hard to believe, but we're getting there.
I really think it's our moment, and we just have to grab it.
Well, awesome. Thanks for being on the other side of the interview for a change. It was great talking to you.
Happy to do it. Thanks for talking to me.
And that wraps it up for today's episode. I sincerely hope that you are just as excited as we are about this. We have some big plans that are still shaping up to bring you a spread of content across as many channels and as many mediums as possible. Over the next few weeks, we'll be rolling out our socials, teasing content, and doing our best to start engaging with you, our future readers. So stay tuned. I also want to give a quick thank you to Barbara Hart, the editor-in-chief of The Mountaineer, and the whole staff at the paper for helping to make this a reality. Like Jezy said earlier, it's rare to see a supportive, healthy, independent newspaper in 2025, and even more rare to start a new one. I imagine this is somewhat like how an endangered species feels like in a zoo, maybe? Bit of an odd analogy, I know, but still, imagine if we all listened to the dodo birds when they stopped publishing their monthly newspaper. Makes you think. Either way, we have a long road ahead of us, and we hope to meet you along the way at some point. This is the Mountaineer Podcast. I'm Tyler Hickman. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
And that's it for our show. Subscribe online to get more access to more news, weekly updates to our community calendar, and a link to our YouTube channel by visiting themountaineer.com. Be sure to use the coupon code PODCAST when subscribing for a 10% discount, only available to our listeners. If you are in the local Peak to Peak area, be sure to pick up a print edition of The Mountaineer at a local business. I'm Dango Rose. Thank you for listening.